Now we're going to look at a ring structure that has a little bit different issue for how we know how to number it based on the identity of those substituent groups. The first thing I want to do is I want to look at my backbone. I want to look at the base compound. I see that I have 4 carbons in a ring. I know that if I have 4 carbons, that the prefix is bute. I know they're in a ring, so I'm going to put cyclobute, and I have all single bonds, so it's cyclobutane. Now that I have that, now I want to worry about how I'm going to number this molecule so that I can get the location of those substituent groups. When I look at the molecule, I see I have 2 substituent groups. I have my bromine and my chlorine. They're both attached to the ring. They're both side groups here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at 2 ways that I can number this molecule. There are actually 4, but I'm only really worried about 2. So I'm going to start here with the chlorine and say 1, 2, 3, 4. I could also count this counterclockwise starting with my chlorine. So I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. But I can see that I'm not going to even consider that as an option simply because I already have this way that it makes my substituent groups at carbon 1 and 2. So something that puts them at 1 and 4 is never going to be a possibility for the name. So that's starting with the chlorine. Now I'm going to look at numbering starting with the bromine. So I'm going to go 1. And if I go to the clockwise, if I go here, I'd see 2, 3, 4. And for the same reason as with the chlorine, I'm not even going to look at that as an option simply because I know I can get my substituents at 1 and 2 rather than 1 and 4. So now I can say 1 here. I can put 2 there, 3, and 4. So now I actually have 2 options for naming this. So if I look at my bromine group, so I have my bromo group and my chloro group. What I can do is if I look at the blue numbering, I see that chlorine is at carbon 1 and bromine is at carbon 2. If I look at the red numbering, I see bromine at carbon 1 and chlorine at carbon 2. Now, when I look at the numbers of the substituent groups, what I see is that either way, it's going to be 1 and 2 for my substituents. So since that's not going to decide how I'm going to number them, then what I'm going to do is say, well, which of them comes first alphabetically? I know that I'm going to name that one first, so it kind of serves as a tiebreaker. If I had numbers over here that were not identical and were not the same kind of set of numbers, I would never worry about the alphabetical order. I'm only looking at the B and the C here for my substituent groups because I have 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. So I need some kind of a tiebreaker there. And so what I see is that bromo comes before chloro because B comes before C in alphabetical order. And so what I'm going to actually do is use the 1 on the bromine and the 2 on the chlorine. So again, you only look at that when you're trying to kind of break that tie of which set of numbers to use. So the name of my molecule is going to be 1 bromo, 2 chloro, cyclobutane.